Howdy folks, Little John and another episode of Brew School, and today we are washing yeast, or rinsing yeast, depends how you want to look at it. It's all the same thing, but done a previous video on reusing yeast, which is just taking the yeast from your batch and reusing it on the follow-up batch. We talked about washing yeast, and what we're doing with washing yeast is we're taking that yeast and we're cleaning it, so we've only got yeast and we're getting it away from trub, so we can store it for a longer period, so we can use it down the track. Plenty of brewers are using the same yeast beer after beer. If you're a bit like me, you're doing different stuff, and you need a little bit of time between each one. So first thing I want to do is I want to get all the beer off the last batch. So this is the batch I bottled yesterday. This was a golden ale, and I've used a White Labs European ale yeast on this. Never used it before, and well, I wouldn't mind keeping this so I can use it again in the future. So I want to get all the beer off this juice cake. Now it's not a big juice cake, this is only a 13 litre batch, but it's certainly enough to do what we need to do today. That's got pretty much all that excess old beer off there. We'll get rid of that. So that should leave me pretty much just fairly clean yeast cake in there. Now you want yourself a couple of jars. Ideally you want 4 or 5. It's not a, so you need a few jars. What I like to collect the Makona coffee jars. They're good. They seal. They're a good size. And the thing I like about them with the push top, if you do happen to get a yeast that wants to keep fermenting in the fridge, it'll just pop that seal off and release the pressure without letting anything in. And you're not going to have, you're not going to take a risk of something blowing up. It's very, very rare that something like that would happen. But with some lager yeast particularly, they will still be active at 3 and 4 degrees. So even in the fridge, they can still be ticking away very slowly, and they can cause a bit of an incident. So what I have, I've got 3 jars, 3 big jars, and they've all got cooled boiled water in them, been sanitised. And I've got a smaller jar. This will be my final jar, which I'll actually use to store this yeast in, and it's got water in it as well. One thing you really need for washing yeast is you need plenty of water. You need a good water to trub ratio. So what I want to do with these is get most of that into the fermenter. Don't want all of it in. And then mix that yeast and water together. Just the same as we did in the video where we were reusing the yeast. Okay, and what I want to do is I want to transfer what will now be a thinner yeast into the jars. And just run it through the tap. Now, give your tap a good spray with sanitizer before you do this, just to be make sure there's no bugs and stuff on there. At this point you do need to be fairly clean for obvious reasons. You get a bug in this now, and this yeast will be no good when you come to use it in 3 or 6 months' time. Potentially kill the brew, or even just waste the yeast. That's in there, so I'm going to get a bit more out of it. So both bottles now have got a quite thin solution of yeast and water. You can pop just a little bit more in there. And I'll pop the lid back on these. All I want to do is just give these a swirl, get everything into suspension, everything moving around, and then just let it sit. And we will now let that sit. It will take anywhere from 8 to 15 minutes, and what you will find will happen is the heavier trub will start to drop out first. So as the trub drops out, you'll get your lighter yeast will be floating around in suspension in that water, and this is why you need lots of water so you can get the separation. If you don't have enough water, you just end up the trub will all just settle together. You need to be able to get it out, and you'll watch it and you'll see the clear layer will start to spread from the top, and you'll see the trub settling down. And then what we'll do is we'll pour that off. So we'll let that sit now, and we'll come back once we've got some that bit of separation, and we'll do the next step. Righto folks, it's been about 20 minutes since we got these jars sitting. Now we're starting to develop a layer of trub on the bottom. Now I don't know if you're going to really be able to see, it's hard to see, but it's about there. You can see it's a darker level at the bottom. You can see when you look at it, you can actually see it's going to be hard, it's not going to really show up on the video, I know that. So what we want to do now is we want to pour off this liquid at the top, because this is where our yeast is, and get rid of and leave the trub behind. So what we'll do is we'll put these two jars into the one jar. So all you got to do is just gently pour it off whilst leaving the trub behind. I'm trying to stir it up too much. And as you go, you can see where it is. It's much darker. Well, I've got more than half a jar there. That's alright. But you can see there the trub that's left behind, and that's much darker than there. And what I'm going to do is, you can see the clear layer where it's actually dropped out. I'll pour a bit of that off separately. Fill that. Lid back on there. And again, with our new jar, give it a good swirl, and we'll now let that sit again for that, 10-15 minutes. Let whatever trub is in there settle out. So the jar that I didn't actually get everything out of, just going to pop a bit more water in there. And we'll let it go again. Yeah. It's the next morning after doing this rinsing and the washing. I've set these two jars. Now this is the smaller jar, which is the one which had the clean washed yeast in it. This is the jar that was partially washed but couldn't get into there. Now you can see in that jar there, there's a nice whack of yeast there in the bottom, and it's reasonably clean. Again, if you have a look, you can see there's a tiny little bit of trub in there. You can see it. In that one that hasn't been fully washed, it's a little bit more obvious that there's a little bit more trub in there. but for the most part, that's a nice clean yeast as well. So what I'm going to do is I want to keep a good whack of that. I'm going to put these two together and keep that. So all I'll do is just drain the water off both of them and put the remainder into the smaller jar, and I'll keep that. So looking at that, I'm probably going to have somewhere around 70 or 80 mils of pretty much pure yeast. It's probably 75% yeast, so effectively somewhere around 50 mil of clean yeast, which is going to give me roughly 50 billion cells. So I can calculate with fairly decent accuracy my next starter. But that's it. So that's what you're looking for. Nice, clean, whitish layer of yeast at the bottom of your jar, which you can easily pitch onto you easily make a starter from when you're in your batches down the track. Now again, I could combine. There's still a third bottle of this, which could have been rinsed again, and there would have been enough between those three quite easily to re-pitch into a full-size batch. As I said, this has come off a half batch, so there would be enough to pitch onto a new one. You can generally work on the assumption that 1 billion cells per milliliter of yeast. So 100 millilitres of yeast, 100 billion cells. The average brew, you're looking for 100 and around that 160, 180 mark. So you need to step up. So if you are washing a full batch, you're going to get enough. But again, you're going to put that into an actual sterile container and actually measure how much yeast you've got to do an accurate calculation, and that's not a bad idea either. Like I said, I'm only visually taking a guess, and I could be wrong. There could be more. There could be more there than what I think, but I'm not too phased right now. I'm pretty happy with that. So there you go. That's it. Washing yeast, and that's what you should end up with. Nice, clean, whitish, creamy looking yeast, and that will vary a bit depending on the style. But if you want to have a go, get a go. Just make sure you've got plenty of bottles, plenty of water, because it does take a few to get it done. But from one full batch of beer, you're going to get enough yeast to do 2 batches on its own, no problem at all, to split and use. Or the reality is you can do many batches by making starters from even portions of it. It's up to yourself. But that's it. Yeast washing and rinsing, nice and easy. Brew School for today. So until we're doing something else, beery and mucking around and drinking and talking and whatever else we do, good brewing.